What to do when you relapse on porn. If you're trying to overcome and break free from your pornography addiction, having a relapse, having a slip in judgment, feeling like you failed can be one of the most crippling things that can happen to you in your journey and in your pursuits. I've spoken with so many men over the last 4+ years that tell me, Frank, I've gotten to 30 days, I've gotten to 60 days, I've gotten to 90 days. But the minute I slip and I fall back, I feel like I've wasted all of my growth. I feel like I'm starting back at square one. And oftentimes, if you have multiple relapses over a short period of time, this can be enough to cause you to give up, to cause you to throw in the towel and say, hey, you know what? Maybe this life of pornography, living free of this thing, is not for me. Maybe I don't have what it takes to ultimately break free and transcend this addiction. And that mindset, that limiting belief will keep you shackled to this addictive behavior forever. So in today's episode of The Rebuilt Man, I want to give you the 5 steps to help you process a relapse. So the next time you slip, you fall back, you find yourself sliding back into the old patterns of behavior, you can quickly pull yourself up, quickly get out of this destructive mindset, and get back on track to creating your own porn-free life. Real quick, guys, if you're getting value out of these episodes, this is The Rebuilt Man. We're here 3 times per week. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. 62% of the people that view our videos are not subscribed, so make sure to hit that notification bell so you're reminded every single time a new episode is released. And if you're consuming on the audio side, guys, take a moment, leave us a 5-star rating and written review. But the 5 steps to process a relapse, that's what we're talking about here in this episode. And if you've caught yourself falling back into any destructive old patterns of behavior and you're looking to get out of this, the first thing is you have to have a moment of true grace for yourself. If you slipped, if you've fallen back, if you find yourself not moving in the direction that you've committed yourself to doing, continuing to beat yourself up, continuing to look at yourself through the negative lens is only going to continue to perpetuate that cycle. As we said, oftentimes, if you're trying to get out of this, you've been trying for years, perhaps decades, and there's this underlying belief, perhaps, that you cannot and will not break free from this addictive behavior. And continuing to think that way will continue to keep you in the cycle. So if you catch yourself slipping, if you catch yourself falling back, if you did have a relapse, the first thing you have to do is you have to forgive yourself and realize that this is a moment of opportunity for you. There's growth sitting on the other side of this relapse for you right now. And looking at it through a negative, destructive lens is only going to keep you in the cycle longer. So have some grace, have some forgiveness, and look at this slip and relapse as an opportunity to learn more about yourself and learn more about what it's going to take. So the first step to process a relapse is to have real-time grace and forgiveness for yourself and only spend a short bit of time there and then get back on track and move on to step number 2, which is to identify exactly what happened. Even if you've only been free of pornography for 3 days at this point, there have been things that you were doing in those 3 days that at this point in time you stopped doing. So you got to imagine you're going down the road and you're presented with a fork in the road. And the left option is falling back, slipping, relapsing. The right option to the right of the fork is to continue down the path that you were on up until this point. So we have to take ourselves back to that moment of time. When did the series of events begin to occur that led us to having this slip? Was it yesterday? Was it the day before? Was it when you hit snooze 3 days ago? Was it when your boss yelled at you? Was it when you got rejected by your wife? Find that moment in time when things began to spiral out of control, because you will be able to identify the patterns that led you back to relapsing. But you got to get clear on what the initial trigger was. So identify exactly what happened and where in the road did the fork split. Once you've done that, what did you choose? So this is step 3. What choice did you make, or series of choices that led you to relapsing, versus what would have been the right choices to make. So in that fork in the road, there's a choice that you made that led to a series of events and additional choices that led you to relapsing. Identify what that was versus what would have been the right choice. So in that same forked position that triggered you to deviate off the path, what would have been the choices, decisions, and actions that you should have taken that would have kept you moving forward towards your life of freedom? When your wife rejected you, instead of bursting out in anger and rage and leaving the room, could you have sat down and had a conversation and asked yourself, how am I not showing up the way that I need to right now? If it was the hitting of the snooze, it would have been honoring your commitment. But identify exactly the moment in time when the series of events began to lead you back to relapsing. So you know exactly what you should have done. And step number 4 is, how will you prevent this event from happening again? Remember what we said at the beginning: when we give ourselves some grace and forgiveness, we have to look at this as a moment of learning and growth. And right here is the opportunity for us to do that. So when presented with exactly the same situation in the future, when our heart rate is elevated, when we are stressed, when we are anxious, when we are tired, when we are triggered, what better choices, decisions, and actions will we begin to take in the future that will prevent us from falling back? So, up to this point, we've covered 4 steps. We've given ourselves some grace and forgiveness. We've identified exactly what happened. Where did the fork in the road split? Think of the movie Back to the Future. Where did the trajectory of your future begin to change? And if you could get in a time machine, how would you change it? So, step 3 is, what did you choose versus what would have been the right choice? Step 4 is, how will you prevent this from happening again in the future? And the 5th step, bringing this all home, is go win. Go do something right now that is a win, moving you closer to the man that you need and want to become. You got to complete a task. You have to set out and do something that's a bigger objective goal. Finish it, complete it, acknowledge it, finish that dopamine loop. Okay. It could be anything meaningful, significant in your life. Go get a workout in. If you've been delaying starting a business, start working on your side hustle. Clean the garage, clean the kitchen, do the dishes, empty the dishwasher. Do something that is task oriented, that has a completion loop cycle. And on the end of that completion loop cycle, recognize yourself for doing the difficult things. Anything, man, anything that is going to complete a task for you. Have grace. Identify exactly what happened. Where did the road and the fork split? What did you choose versus what would have been the right choice? How will you prevent this from happening again in the future? And then get out there, get back on your life, and go out there and win and complete something that's moving you closer towards the man that you want to become. And understand that if you're early on in this journey, this may happen again. You may have to go through this 5-step process 5, 6, 7 times. You may only need to do it once. I don't know. But a relapse is not a failure. It's a moment for us to learn. We've been presented with something that we are lacking, and we need to figure out what that is. Now, guys, if you're struggling with breaking free, we've given you the tools here to relapse, but maybe you don't have the actual plan. We just completed a free training on our 12-step process. Guys, we are giving away the entire 12-step system. And in this training, you'll learn about the 3 biggest mistakes that men make, why old systems of recovery don't work, and more importantly, why this new approach is the only effective way to truly break free and transcend this addiction forever. Visit rebuiltrecovery.com/12 steps, or hit the link down there in the show notes in the description box below. But Coach Frank Rich here at Rebuilt Recovery, the Rebuilt Man podcast. We love you guys. Subscribe, rate, review the show, and we'll see you in the next one.